The UFC referees are the best of the best.
I think it's disgusting. I think he's disgusting, and I never want to see him reffing ever again.
And they are trusted to make the right decision in the fight.
Mario Yamasaki can stop this fight anytime he wants. Mario Yamasaki looking at him very carefully.
A bad call might cost an entire career.
No, I think it was just a case of Mario just being a very poor official.
It might cost companies millions of dollars. Mario has officiated over 400 fights with promotions all over the world. And like most other referees, he was considered a decent official, and in fact, one of the most respectable ones. But only a couple of fights destroyed Mario's reputation as one of the best referees in the world, and in fact, completely did a 180 in his career.
Recently, we saw Mario Yamasaki's pretty bad stoppage.
And this made Dana White so mad.
And I never want to see him reffing ever again. You're in there to protect her from herself. He makes me sick.
That he completely banned Mario Yamasaki because he costed him millions of dollars.
That guy has no business reffing fights, and I promise you, you're not going to see him again.
Mario was born in Brazil in a jiu-jitsu family. He had very deep roots in martial arts, so it was only natural that when the UFC came to Brazil in his hometown, Mario Yamasaki did whatever he could to get a hold of Dana White. And even though he couldn't get a hold of Dana White, he got a hold of Big John McCarthy.
You're the only referee in UFC. What about if you get sick or you get hurt?
So Mario Yamasaki essentially booked himself into the role of a referee since he had competed in the sport and knew all the rules. This event, known as UFC 17.5, was absolutely a killer UFC event that helped them catapult the future of the sport. So when the sport kept expanding and Victor Belfort got that knockout, Mario Yamasaki was their main backup guy to call. And the following year in UFC 20, Mario Yamasaki would officially become a referee for the first time. Little did anybody know really what Mario Yamasaki would be subject to in the future. And I don't say this because he was bad immediately. In fact, the opposite. Mario Yamasaki was pretty decent. In fact, he officiated 6 years and about 50 fights without ever having a single issue. But his first issue would come in a pretty big fight. Match, Frank Trigg against Matt Hughes. The first fight, Matt Hughes won by a spectacular rear naked choke. But then in the second fight, Frank Trigg would strike Matt Hughes with a groin strike, clear as day. But Mario Yamasaki just wasn't looking at the time, and this kind of stuff does happen in the UFC. It's not unheard of.
I mean, Matt looked to help from the referee, but Mario Yamasaki didn't see the groin strike.
Hughes kept pointing out the fact that he got hit in the groin, but Mario Yamasaki was like, "No, I didn't see it. You're just lying." And he wasn't. And Matt Hughes was able to somehow get off his back and mount a comeback. Matt Hughes would get his back taken and put it in a rear naked choke. Thankfully, he never got the locks in, and he was able to flip it around and still win the match. So this fight didn't cost Dana White a lot of money, but it could have 100% outlived Matt Hughes' career. And yes, Mario missed it, and that kind of stuff happens, but that is also his job to identify that kind of thing. However, I mean, they're inducted in the Hall of Fame, and is one of Dana White's favorite match, so no major mistake. He just presented one more hurdle to make the fight more dramatic in this case. Dana White was able to actually make some good money off of this mistake. However, this was not always the case, especially in this bizarre upcoming call. This took place at UFC 70. Sakara faced Victor Valmaki in April 21st, 2007. In just under 2 minutes, Sakura lands a beautiful right hand that knocks the mouth guard of Victor off, and it stuns Victor as well. So usually the procedure is let the fight finish. What does Mario Yamasaki do? He steps right in the middle, breaks up the action. Victor is rocked, so it gives Victor time to recover. He puts his mouth guard on, and now Victor has gotten a chance to regain his senses. And while yes, fighter safety is his priority, this is not common to happen while the onslaught is happening. Thankfully, right after the fact, Mario Yamasaki, after the fact, basically the same outcome still happened. Mario Yamasaki again didn't affect this call, but it would put himself in a weird light already where he was probably not going to be allowed to officiate any big matches. Just because if this happens in a big match, it could mean big money to be lost. Because most importantly, the last 2 fights we've seen ended up with the right fighter winning, but that's not always the case. And he would eventually cost the UFC some money. In UFC 142 in January 2012, Eric Silva would face Carl Prater. And just in the first round, a powerful knee would almost bring the fight to a conclusive finish. And so he did. he stepped in and stopped the fight. But an unexpected turn would happen. The fight wasn't stopped because it was a TKO. The fight was stopped because it was illegal strikes, allegedly. And the commentary team and Joe Rogan, they just weren't having any of it. They were not gonna forgive Yamasaki for his mistake.
Let's take a look at it, Eric, because it looked legal to me. These look like legal shots to me. Are you happy with this call? Are you right now? How are you feeling about this?
And Mario Yamasaki would realize himself, yeah, I did make a mistake. In the heat of the moment, he didn't see it, but most of the strikes were not landing to the back of the head. Some of them were, though. And just to completely flip the outcome like that, not his best call, and it would cost, especially an aspiring career, Eric Silva. Because Eric Silva would have that permanent DQ loss in his record. There's no way he can get rid of it now. But this wouldn't be actually for the year. He would make an even more incompetent error later in that year. In October 2012, in UFC 153, Glover Teixeira basically had a one-sided beatdown quickly. He would knock down Maldonado and start beating him up in the ground and pound. Maldonado just kept taking unprotected shots, at which point the announcers just thought Mario Yamasaki was gonna stop it at any moment now. Any moment, maybe now, you get it. He took his time to stop it. They made it to the next round, and same thing happened in the next round. So by the time they got to the last round, honestly, the doctors were just like, yeah, no, he can't compete. He beat up. Like, he should have stopped 2 rounds earlier. Like, yeah, he can't compete. And same again. Costing him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and Dana White, maybe a couple of million. And look, Mario Yamasaki's priority is fighter safety. I understand that fighters want to go as long as they can, but fighter safety is a priority. But he took fighter safety too serious in this next fight. However, back to this incident, it would actually happen 4 years after, but the issue was, to anybody watching, they could assume that this would be his last night, because he didn't make one mistake. He made 2 mistakes in 2 high-profile matches. First one involving Corey Garbrandt. Garbrandt would punch Augusto Mendes, and Mendes would fall down and was clearly rocked. Mario Yamasaki would step in between the fight, which led to Augusto putting his guard down, and but he didn't actually stop the fight, so Garbrandt just kept raining down punches for a little bit. And honestly, not the worst fight stoppage that we have ever seen. Honestly, this happens fairly often in the UFC. It's up to the referee's discretion, so like discretion can be rough at times. But with that being said, if this was the only incident, we would probably never talk about it. So here's the next incident. In the main event, refereed by Mario Yamasaki once again, Donald Cerrone would face Alex Oliveira. Cerrone would lock down the triangle choke on Alex Oliveira pretty early in the fight. But Yamasaki confusingly did not really see the tap by Oliveira until Donald Cerrone himself was like, hey, dude, he's tapping, stop the match. Alex Oliveira could have gone unconscious, which could be extremely dangerous for the brain as well. This because coming from a BJJ background, he knows where to look for taps. And you know how I said earlier, people would assume this is his last day as a referee? Well, it actually wasn't. Dana White was obviously not pleased with him, but he didn't ban him yet. Dana made his opinion very clear and posted it on Twitter, but he was still not banned from the company. Oliveira did not take any unnecessary damage, thankfully, thanks to Donald Cerrone. But we can't say the same about Travis Brown, a great prospect for the World Heavyweight division. Derek Lewis, one of the hardest striking people in the entire division, would face Travis Brown in 2017. And in round 2, Derek Lewis connected with a devastating right hand that would knock Travis Brown on his back. Yamasaki just kept saying, defend yourself, defend yourself, defend yourself. He wasn't defending himself, landing some of the strongest strikes and landing some of the most disarming strikes that you will ever see. Absolutely what felt like crushing his skull when the fight should have been over.
No, I appreciate it. Well, yeah, I give him $1,000. I appreciate it for letting the fight go a little longer than what it was, because I just wanted to get all my anger out on Travis' face anyway, because he liked to hit on women. So I appreciate him for doing that.
Yamasaki was very self-aware, saying that it was a little too late. I probably should have stopped it a little bit earlier, which again, these are mistakes that most referees make. So not the biggest deal, but you did just cost the company millions of dollars, and this is not the first time you have done it. Kevin Lee and Michael Chiesa would have a fight in 2017 as well. They had a ton of bad blood heading into their fight, and it was a highly promoted match with tons of marketing money behind it. But unfortunately, once again, their fight would end in controversy. In the first round, with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, Kevin Lee secured a choke, or so we thought, on Michael Chiesa. And even the choke was kind of tight. Mario Yamasaki stopped the fight without any tap happening, to which Michael Chiesa straight up sits up and screams, "What the hell just happened?" I know Chiesa doesn't seem to be defending the fight, but with only 20 seconds at that point, he would have been able to maybe survive the whole round. It didn't look great for him, but things could have happened to save Chiesa at that point.
I fight the hands when he's going RNC, switches palm to palm, shrink your shoulders in, flex your neck, get your elbows in. When he loosens up, you elbow down, turn in. I saw it was short time on the clock. I went to what I know, and the next thing I know, the fight's getting stopped.
And the fact that Mario Yamasaki just straight up stopped the fight without a tap was not a good look, and Chiesa was not happy, as he said he was defending. Michael Chiesa was closing into a title fight, and this was his chance to probably get that and become the next UFC star. His momentum was absolutely stopped by Kevin Lee.
I mean, that guy is too focused on being some kind of playboy in front of the cameras, making his little heart logos. Maybe he should go back and read the fucking rule book.
But he's still a member of the UFC. Dana White's still very unhappy, and not only Dana White, most referees. At this point, Michael Chiesa has become the Angel Hernandez of the UFC. But in his last fight as a referee in the UFC would be Priscilla Cachoeira against Valentina Shevchenko. This was a rather one-sided beatdown from Valentina Shevchenko, and the fight could have gone stopped multiple times. But Mario just kind of refused to stop it. So the point Valentina Shevchenko was just kind of looking at Mario Yamasaki and being like, dude, when are you going to stop this? She is done. She kept beating up on her looking for the finish, and nothing would happen. So it came to the fighter to be like, okay, I'm done beating her up and mauling her face up and shattering her brain. Let me just put her in a choke, have her tap out immediately, and end the fight like that. It is up to the referee to have the fighter's health at top of mind. And Mario Yamasaki did the complete opposite of this in this fight. And again, it's not that it's never happened before, but on the words of Chael Sonnen,
where it comes to Mario, he made a mistake. And his mistake was he made a statement
saying that he allowed Priscilla to be a warrior. And UFC president Dana White was having just absolutely none of that.
I think it's disgusting. I think he's disgusting, and I never want to see him reffing ever again. You're in there to protect her from herself. He makes me sick. That guy has no business reffing fights, and I promise you, you're not going to see him again.
So that was his iconic last fight that got him banned from ever refereeing a UFC fight ever again. So is Yamasaki really this bad of a referee? Yes, he had a bunch of mess ups in a big stage. But in 2023, he did an interview to try to explain himself.
You know, I referee 800 fights, and I up in 4. The only thing that shows on my history is 4 that I did, because those are the ones that keep pushing. You know, what Dana said about me, oh, you're not going to step in the octagon again, blah, blah, blah. Those things are the ones that shows most, not my 798 fights that I did, you know, right. They don't care. They care what about what you did wrong. I think Dana was a little, you know, too rash on me because I'm not that bad, you know.
And when it comes to this statement, he mentions that it wasn't his idea.
I had a public relation back then, and they told me to say that, and I said it as, you know, to let her be a warrior and blah, blah, blah. And that became the focus point on him.
Whether that's just him making excuses or not, I guess we'll never know, and it won't really matter. Honestly, most importantly to me, he's owned up to most of his errors. Every single time he kind of makes an error, he said the error is human. In the Travis Brown fight, he says there's no excuses. I should have stopped that earlier. For the Chiesa result, he said Chiesa was actually within his right to appeal the outcome of the fight. And with the Shevchenko match, he said, I know I could have stopped there earlier. It was a mistake. And I know that this doesn't really stop what he did. And honestly, I think it all boils down to money, as it always does. He just costed too many up-and-coming fighters big bucks, giving some of them maybe CTE and having them never be the same again. And the UFC having to find out a way to promote somebody else because of a referee mistake. And Dana White just simply didn't like this. Just imagine somebody messing up a call and having Sugar Sean O'Malley get bit up multiple times. He's supposed to be the next big thing in the business. And if he gets damaged and battered to the point that he can't fight again, his whole brand is gone. The UFC has to try to build a brand of somebody else, whoever beat him probably. And this, in marketing, is very, very expensive. And there are no guarantees that it will actually work. To show this, here are two examples. There's a fighter that was marketed properly, and in fact, he marketed himself. That would be Conor McGregor right there. And there is a fighter that is one of the best in the world, but didn't market himself as much. In fact, the UFC was against marketing him in Demetrius Johnson. And I'll see you in those videos. See ya!
Ballin' now, skirt down, all of these diamonds sold. Bought 'em for me, but they're yours now. You could drink it, but take it slow. Ballin' for you, falling for you.